Hello friends, this is part 2 of my improbable journey into historical fiction. This video, I'll summarize the plot and the characters of my debut novel, Dueling Against Darkness. Let's go on a journey, shall we? Okay, let's get into the novel. The debut novel is titled Dueling Against Darkness, and it's set in the calendar year 1694 in London. It's a coming-of-age story at the birth of the modern world. The theme of the novel, broadly speaking, is the multi-level dynamics of ambition, especially the interplay between personal growth and social innovation. Let me unpack that for a moment. The main characters are ordinary people who might do extraordinary things in society, or they are directly connected to movers and shakers. They are morally gray. Not every motive is noble. Not every change is good. They all face this question: when is it worth sticking my neck out for the good of society? And for whose benefit? And for what personal gain or cost? It plays out in the realm of emotions and relationships too. Society likes winners and despises losers. Emotionally, success builds confidence, while failure leads to depression or desperation. They are asking themselves, who can I trust? Supporters may abandon me, rivals might undermine me, and charlatans might cheat me. And worst of all, I might be ignored or taken as a fool. New ventures face challenging questions. Is the timing right? What are the chances of succeeding? What are the risks? Is this the best approach? Is it too ambitious or too meek? What's the investment or preparation required? Who will support it? And who will oppose it? And is it even feasible? So these folks are thinking about innovation in society, and they are encountering these questions, sometimes for the first time. And then there's the even more fundamental questions. Can the institutions of society be perfected? Or does every improvement bring on a new set of problems and vulnerabilities? Social innovation requires people with ambition to drive it or contribute to it. The questions that arise here are, what sort of personal ambitions fits best with the project? And what personal ambitions fits the worst? When does the ambition of the project work against the individuals involved? And each character has nagging self-doubts. Am I the right person to do this? Am I smart enough? Am I capable enough? Am I powerful enough? Am I brave enough? Should I risk my own reputation? How do I present myself in the best light, or at least avoid the worst light where my weaknesses might be exposed? Their inner challenge often boils down to this: when it matters most, will I step into my authentic self despite the risks? Or will I try to hide behind a false self? Do I even know what the difference between authentic and false? And does it matter if I'm lucky enough to succeed in the end? Here's a summary of the novel plot. The main character is 19-year-old Francis Thomas, who's an orphan. He has a precarious scheme to establish himself as a person of quality, hoping to emulate his infamous late father. Francis is seduced by a flashy man about town with promises of riches and fame. When the scheme collapses, Francis goes on a desperate quest to solve the mystery of his father's death 9 years earlier, in order to secure Francis's inheritance and reputation. This takes Francis into new and unfamiliar worlds, including the family home in South Wales, high finance in the City of London, Church of England politics, and the murky world of taverns, coffee houses, and prisons. Around every corner is a new project that promises to change the world. Peeling back veils and decrypting messages, Francis and his friends uncover dark secrets that mortally wound his false self-image and threaten people in high places. Will Francis find his true North Star, or will he chase after fireflies? And the journey of three other characters are woven in with Francis. John Herbert is 47, Justice of the Peace and Fellow of the Royal Society. He's a sometime mentor to Francis. He calls on Francis's sleuthing skills to help find corruption and uncover treasonous plots. Molly Verney, 18, is a gentle lady, an heiress, a dance instructor, and a would-be actor. She is friend, co-investigator, and possibly love interest with Francis. Molly wants to avoid the stale life of a country gentleman's wife. With the help from Francis and other ingenious people, Mary goes on a quest to transform women's education. Stephen Goddard, 30, is a black Englishman who returns to London after 8 years of indentured service in Jamaica. At first, he is a shapeshifter trying to navigate London's world within worlds. Then he enters the service of John Herbert as valet and with hopes to remake his life. The novel ends in tragedy, but also magnificent rebirth. The characters who survive go through a dark night of the soul and come out transformed. All the major characters and events in this novel are real to history. The fiction picks up where the history leaves off. So, why am I writing historical fiction, in this novel in particular? At the core, I'm motivated by a creative vision. The vision was born during genealogy research that led to a murder mystery. By luck, the murderer was well publicized. As I researched the case and discovered the identities and biographies of key people, I was enthralled by the web of social connections and also their roles in social change and innovation. They were ordinary people doing extraordinary things during a period that was bubbling with possibilities. All right, here's the vision. To bring to life the exciting world of 1690s London in the most vivid, immersive, stimulating, meaningful way possible. Now, the alternative is to write nonfiction history, but that only gets me halfway toward this goal. The advantage of fiction is I can take readers into the minds, emotions, and lived experiences of people who made things happen. Fiction also allows for filling in the missing pieces in history and exploring alternative possibilities, the almost but not quite events that didn't get recorded. Along the way, there are mysteries and puzzles to solve, tough choices to make, and unexpected victories and setbacks. Compared to the Tudor or Regency periods, 1690s London doesn't get much attention in popular culture or even in academia. But this was an amazing and fertile period. Many modern institutions were born in the late 17th century. This period also put to an end many dark patterns in society, including witch trials, wars of religion, arbitrary rule by the sovereign, at least in the English-speaking world, and routine torture in the criminal justice system. But many new dark institutions were born or escalated, including imperialism and the oppression of native peoples, the slave trade, scientific and institutional racism, and maladaptive institutions such in the workhouse system. All these innovations, good and bad, were not controlled or determined by people at the top, with only a few rare exceptions. It was mostly ordinary or unexpected people in the middle that drove innovation at crucial moments. None of these innovations or changes were inevitable. Likewise, there were many promising innovations that could have happened and could have succeeded, but didn't. They weren't necessarily doomed to fail. In the 1690s, London was uniquely large, diverse, and concentrated. and served as an ideal cauldron for these changes in innovation. But for modern readers, the world of 1690s is comparatively small and contained, which should help readers put their arms around it. My vision, as a fiction writer, is that readers will feel like they are living in that world, facing its challenges and opportunities. They should feel the excitement changing the world in some aspect, or at least attempting to. Now, if this creative vision is realized, readers should come away with two main benefits. First is the joy of traveling into a different time and place in all its richness. But it won't be simple escapism. Instead, readers, I hope, will have a growth experience. Their efforts will be rewarded. It should stimulate the reader's imagination and challenge their beliefs, test their problem-solving skills, and expand their understanding. The second benefit is taking lessons from 1690s world and applying them to the present, especially to see opportunities for social innovation today and how ordinary people might make a difference. Last, I want this to be an important book for its true fans, whether there are 100 true fans or 1 million. They should want to reread the book, and I'm writing it to have that quality. I want them to want to talk about this book with other readers and their friends and family. And I hope for some it could change their life. Now about the tone and style. I'll start with the negative, what I don't want. I don't want this to be a costume drama. Reading this novel won't be like looking at a museum display from a safe distance. Readers won't be able to play dress up or live out their fantasies. There are plenty of books for that. My motto is, no dusty harpsichords, because that's what you hear in movies and documentaries to signal days of yore, and thus keep you at an emotional and cultural distance. Instead, I chose a style that would be effective for realism, immediacy, complexity, and depth and nuance. For me, that means a style that is relatively transparent and easy to read. I chose not to mimic the writing style or speaking style of the time exactly. And if you read the King James Bible, it's more in that direction than the modern speech. At the same time, I wanted to convey some of the style of speaking and the expressions and phrases. I avoid modern vocabulary and expressions, and I use period expressions and slang where I think it can be effective. And hopefully that adds a lot of flavor. Now here's personal taste. I personally am not a fan of flowery writing or purple prose in novels. For me, that comes across like self-indulgence by the author and doesn't add to my reading experience. I like simple and direct prose that tells a story with a few spicy phrases here and there. I'm prone to bountiful servings of metaphors, analogies, and similes, and I don't apologize for it. I hope my readers enjoy it. I also like humor, but not always in the obvious places. Now this novel, it explores all aspects of 1694 London. Some are good, some are bad, and some are ugly. Life was precarious in 1690 London, especially infant mortality and infectious diseases. Did you know the death rate exceeded the birth rate? But the population in London continued to grow, actually quite rapidly. Did you know they were living through the Little Ice Age? And that the River Thames sometimes froze over in the winter? There was no police force to capture criminals or investigate crimes. Likewise, the roads, water, sewage, and other infrastructure were spotty and not centrally built or maintained. This was only 28 years after the Great Fire had destroyed most of the city of London, and 29 years since all of England was ravaged by the plague. It had only been 6 years since the so-called Glorious Revolution, which can also be labeled as the Dutch Protestant invasion. England and Holland had been at war with the French ever since then. It wasn't clear who was going to prevail. I mention these factors because everyone in society from top to bottom felt them. We're affected by them. The novel also explores mature themes in a mature way. Sensitive readers, especially trauma survivors, might find some episodes to be disturbing, because there's violence, there's abuse, there's injuries, there's disease, death, psychological disorders, psychotic episode, sex and sexuality, prostitution, discrimination, corruption, oppression, and religious conflict. The novel explores these themes through the character eyes without amplifying them or minimizing them. The narration does not moralize or impose modern values, but it's not all gritty, dark realism. It's not stupid them, smart us, or look how bad life was back then compared to our wonderful life now. There were many pleasures and delights in 1690s London, including some we might envy today. So, what are my future plans? Originally, you're going to get a laugh out of this. My first plan was to write a novel set in 1695, but I discovered that I had too much backstory. So I decided I would write a novel in the previous year to give all the backstory, and I imagined this would be a simpler, easier to write novel. I laugh at it now that I'm up to 77,000 words. Pretty long with 4 point-of-view characters. But I'm imagining a series. Each novel in the series set in a single calendar year, maybe multiple novels in the same calendar year to follow different characters in parallel. And I have plots for 1695 and 1696 and a few ideas after that. So there could be 6, 8, 10, 12 novels in this series, taking you up to London in the early 1700s, right about into the reign of Queen Anne. There's plenty of material, plenty of stories to unfold. Kind of all depends upon how successful these first 4 are, both as a creative process and in the marketplace. If there's enough interest, I want to write other books. I'm thinking about a parallel book to the 1694 novel that builds out the world. It's more of a travel log than the character-driven story I have now. And there might be nonfiction works coming out of this. So, just wrapping up. This is basically my life plan for my next 25 years. Wish me luck.